Thank you once again, Meher, for joining us. It's very exciting to talk with you about robotics today. Thank you, everyone who is joining us. We are with Agim happy to host this talk with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, guys, if you have a question, just leave them in chat, and we will definitely give you the answers to them in our posts that will be related to today's talk.
Is my screen visible?
Oh,
So I'm going to start. All right.
yep. Thank you.
Okay. So robotic process automation. It's pretty simple. RP is all about how you're going to teach robots to do all the boring stuff so that you can sit and chill and do all the nice stuff. Okay. So starting off, I'm going to be talking about, yes, a bit about myself, then what exactly RPA is, why do we need it, like what led to the need for this, and where do we implement it, the applications, solutions, and sectors, and how do we implement it? That is the process involved in implementing an RPA system for a business. And then we'll talk about a few common RPA tools, which are the market leaders. And the last few sections, or the second last section, is going to be about is for people who are interested to get into this RPA group or into this RPA development scenario or area. And the last one is going to be about the future of RPA, where I'll answer, I think, a misconception or a question which a lot of people have. And I'll talk about it when I get there. So, my name is Mekha. I'm from Kerala, which is the southernmost state in India. And I did my schooling here, my college also here from my place of birth. And my main was computer science and mathematics. And my college was also bachelor's in technology, that too in computer science. I passed out in 2018, and after that, I took a small break because I was confused. I was a little confused about what field to really pursue. When I was in school, I liked computers and I liked maths, but more than that, I loved planning, organizing, and problem solving. And I'll say my passion is solving problems the easiest way, because sometimes I do consider that I might be a little bit lazy. So I try to find the easiest or the simplest way to solve problems. Another passion that I have is poetry and art. That kind of keeps me sane in this busy world. So that's a quick intro about me. Next, I'm going to start off with, just give me a second. Yeah, start off with what exactly is RPA using an example. I'm going to explain something that is similar to what is here, and something that I personally faced. That is, since I post a lot of my poetry on Instagram, and when I do that, sometimes I try to follow a schedule, or I will be like, I want to post a particular post every day at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. Because based on Instagram algorithm for a particular set of days, like maybe 15 days continuously. But due to my schedule, I may not be actually able to post it correctly at 6 p.m. itself every single day. And in such instances, I will hope for some kind of a system where or an application that can do that process for me. I'm getting echo. Yeah, thanks. And in such a yeah. So when I think like that, with that idea in mind, I actually went about looking for a few applications that would do it. But most of these applications would actually only give me an alert, as in like at 7 p.m. you're supposed to post. They don't actually do that process for me. So that is the main idea of what RPA does. In the sense, the RPA will automate processes that are repetitive, mundane, and that does not really require your brain activity. Okay. So it mimics human actions to perform a sequence of steps that lead to meaningful activity without any human intervention. All right. In the sense, if you can do it, I'll give you a really simple example of this. Consider screen recording a particular activity that you're doing in your phone. So you'll be taking, you'll be opening one application, or just screen record the process of making a calendar entry. So you'll be taking your calendar app, you'll be opening it, you'll have to find the date, you'll have to post a meeting or whatever. If you could screen record that whole process, and if you give it to a bot, and the bot will do it for you. That's exactly what RPA does in very simple words and in the context of a mobile phone. But this can be applied to various processes, especially in the business scenario, in a PC or using an RPA tool. And that is what software robotics or RPA is all about. So it allows task automation just the way a human would be working across applications and systems, like I said. And its main aim is to replace repetitive, boring clerical tasks performed by humans. I mean, it would obviously be boring if my only job was to just take some kind of a data from somewhere, just segregate it, or just ensure that it's what I want and just put it. I mean, that's kind of like a boring job. So if you can make a bot to do that for you, my time would be can be used for doing something that's more meaningful. So that is the whole point of software robotics. That is, you convert, or you're able to automate any boring process so that you can free your time to do something useful or creative or innovative. This is just a little bit of a technical explanation. I'll just go through it. RPA can be used to automate workflows, infrastructures, back office processes, which are labor intensive. These software bots can interact with an in-house application, website, user portal, etc. The main point of RPA is that once you create a bot, the bot can really work with all kinds of applications on top of your existing IT architecture. It does not require any changes to the existing system. So that makes it easy. That makes it scalable. That makes it something that anybody or any system can actually use or complement. The RPA is a software program which runs on an end user's PC, laptop, or mobile device. It's a sequence of commands which are executed by bots under some defined set of business rules. It does not require the development of code, nor does it require direct access to the code or database of the applications. You don't really have to know coding in order to be an RPA developer. You just need to have some technical knowledge with respect to the environment. Other than that, you don't need a lot of coding background in this, and that makes it something enticing especially for people like me who are not much into coding but into actual problem solving. And next is, RPA is different from a standard computer program, one that behaves in a static, predictably linear fashion. RPA is dynamic, it looks for patterns and makes predictions. Okay, so this is a question that I myself asked when I started off, like, why would RPA be different from any normal computer program? Because any computer program, what it does is that it just performs a set of series or steps based on whatever instructions that you provide. But the difference between RPA and the normal computer program is that a computer program is static. It does not allow any dynamic changes to be considered. But in the case of RPA, you can create it in a dynamic way. It can handle all sorts of inconsistencies, limited sort of inconsistencies actually. And RPA can be configured to observe the way a trained user performs a particular task and the various decision points involved in accomplishing that task, and to replicate the process. Like I said, it's simply speaking, if a software bot could actually completely see the screen recording of whatever you're doing and perform the same, that's software robotics. Next is, why do we need it? Why do we need RPA means, okay, I'll just go to the next slide. Okay, so this is the exact, a business scenario where you will actually have people coming in between processes and technology. Processes means any collection of tasks that are involved in any business situation. And technology is what runs any of these operations. And people, they fill the gap between process and technology. In a typical enterprise environment or in any company, what happens is that in the technology sector, there might be different applications or platforms. For example, there can be custom applications, there can be mainframe ones, enterprise resource planning tools, SaaS, and software as a service softwares, platforms. So different kinds of tools or platforms exist in tandem. So in such a case, it might be hard to coordinate their activities, or especially with respect to a factor called change. That is, if there's any particular kind of change that comes in, then you'll have to change the working of the entire system. you will have to, and another situation would be if there's some kind of an integration that's popping up, a new integration, or if you're asking, if you're adding a new module into the system, you have to ensure that all the participants or all the components in the platform are actually in sync with the whole system. So those kind of issues crop up anytime there is some kind of a change. And if a human or a person is handling it, then then it's going to be a little bit more tedious and costly, because you'll have to teach the human how to do it. You'll have to basically, reskill the human. If that doesn't work, you'll have to hire someone new. So these kind of processes will come up. But that's where you can incorporate a virtual workforce. And that is what a digital workforce, and that is what software robotics does. I mean, because each bot can be assigned to do a particular task, and after that's done, you can reconfigure it to do something else. And so it becomes, the whole process becomes simpler and easier. You just have to, spend on initial implementation, and afterwards, based on changes, you can reconfigure it. So that's why there is a need for RPA coming up. Next is set of questions that you need to ask. Okay. This is like, a questionnaire that we usually ask whenever a client or whenever anybody comes forward with a requirement for RPA. These are the set of questions that you can ask to ensure that the process needs to be automated or can be automated using RPA. You don't actually have to automate every process. I mean, it may not yield the required result just because you automate it. So you have to ensure that it does follow a certain set of parameters. So in such a scenario, like the questions that you ask is, can the task be automated by a human sitting at a PC with application? Anybody who can perform that particular task by just sitting in front of a laptop and doing. If anybody can do that, then software robotics can do it for you. Next is there a cost factor for information updation in your system? If there is some kind of an expenditure or some kind of a costly money factor involved whenever there is any updation or changes, then you should try to implement RPA, because it will obviously bring down your cost. And does the task involve sensitive data? This is a very crucial point, because sometimes when different kinds of people are working on a system, they don't actually have to be, they don't actually have to know the entire data, or they don't actually have to know all confidential information. They just need to do some particular task for it. But if you, in such a scenario, if you actually put an robot or a software robot or an RPA system, then you don't have to worry about security. So that is something that RPA can solve. Then does the human worker perform the task more than once repeatedly? Yes, repetitive tasks are the best tasks for RPA, because humans can get tired after 8 hours shift or anything, but a robot does not. It can work 24/7. It does not require any energy. And so yes, these are the questions that you ask. And if you get a yes to all of these questions, you can go forward and proceed with automating the task. So that gives us a set of rules or set of parameters that we should consider whenever we are taking any process for automation. First is that it should be highly manual. Then it should be rule-based. Rule-based in the sense it has to have a set of steps, because robots obviously are not going to be using their brain. So we have to ensure that they are told that they're supposed to follow this particular set in this particular order. So there has to be a rule. It cannot be an inconsistent or an unstructured data. And obviously it can be repetitive, and there is a low exception rate. Low exception rate in the sense that comes to the next point actually, that is connected to the next point actually. We have to ensure that the input is standard. Robots cannot, they cannot work with any kind of data that's not already given to them. Okay. So in such a case, you have to make sure that the input is standardized. I mean, if you are going for an OCR or an optical character recognition sort of step in order to extract your data, you have to make sure that the data is in an image form. If you are inputting or if you are extracting your data from a spreadsheet, or if you are getting numbers, then you have to make sure that it's from a spreadsheet, or all those kinds of rules. Ensure that the data is input is standard. So in such a situation, if any inconsistencies arise, it leads to an exception. So in such situations, RPA cannot really work, in the sense RPA cannot really completely utilize itself. So you have to ensure that the process that you choose has a low exception rate. And the last is there's a high volume of data because anyways you are going to be spending money or you are implementing a bot to do a task. So if it is high volume, if there's a lot of data to work with, it will obviously be much more useful for you. Next, benefits of RPA is obviously elimination of human error. There is no scope of, I wouldn't say no, there is like literally 99% error-free system, I mean, in a robot. So yes, there's elimination of human error. Then there is enhanced customer experience. Enhanced customer experience becomes a part because like, consider the scenario where you are calling a customer service executive with respect to some kind of, like you want to have some kind of information about something. So when you call your customer service agent and just imagine that all your data, everything about you is in the form of a paper. It's not digital. That's not the era. Imagine the scenario. And it's lying all around. So if you want to get the data, if the customer service executive wants to know the exact data about the caller, he or she will have to go walk around and find information. So that seems like a completely useless and unimaginable scenario right now because everything is digital right now. And what we do and what currently happens is that the agent just will have to type your info, like your name or your phone number or some kind of a parameter, and the information is generated and the agent can work with it. Consider the next level of this. For example, as soon as you call into the customer service center, the center will obviously get your contact number. And with that contact number, the bot or the RPA tool RPA bot that you've implemented will automatically check your information from the system and make it ready for you. So as soon as the customer service agent takes the call, he or she will have all the information regarding the person in hand. So it's like the next step or the next level of automation, of task automation. That's what RPA does. And it leads to obviously greater productivity and is obviously cost saving because it's easier to get one robot that you can reconfigure to do many tasks rather than getting one human or like a couple of humans or hiring them or reskilling them. So that's benefits. And then we come to capabilities. So it's computer coded software. So whenever we mention robotic process automation, the word robot, you're thinking of some kind of a physical thing that walks around that does all tasks for you. It's not that. It's computer coded software. It's literally everything is inside your computer. And it's programs that replace humans performing repetitive rule-based tasks. And it's cross-functional and cross-application platforms. Like I already mentioned, the RPA system does not need to make sure that it does not have any kind of, limitations with respect to the type of applications or platforms that it works with. It can work with anything as long as it is a process that you are telling the robot to do or the bot to do. So therefore it's cross-functional and cross-application. Next is types of bots. Okay. So basically there are two types of bots. One is unattended and next is attended. Unattended bots would be any bot that can do anything where no human interaction or intervention is necessary. Let's take a very simple process of like as soon as in a company, as soon as an invoice or a receipt or some kind of a process or documentation comes up in a mail. Imagine the scenario where a person will have to collect information from that invoice and put it into a database so that into a spreadsheet so that you can refer to it later. So that kind of a situation is like a person is actually assigned for it. There is no change regarding what the person has to do. There's not much kind of an exceptions that are arising there. And this process, if you automate it, the bot never has to interact with the human at all. The bot can do the entire process by itself. So that makes it an unattended bot. An attended bot, on the other hand, will be working along with a human or a person, sort of like having your own digital assistant who will do all the tasks that you find boring just for you. So that is an attended bot. Okay, these are the steps, or these are certain examples of what an RPA can do. It can open email attachments, log into web or enterprise applications. It can move files and folders. Just imagine anything that you do with your cursor on your what do you say, on your screen that does not involve you to use your brain and think or make a decision or make a judgment. You can obviously automate it using RPA. So others include copying and pasting, filling in forms, reading and writing to databases, scraping data from websites. That's a very data scraping is like is a process that existed before RPA, and now, right now it's like incorporated into RPA. And next is connecting to system APIs or application programming interfaces, making calculations, collecting social media metrics, following if-then decision rules. Like how I already said, they don't, bots don't have the capacity to think on their own. So you already, if you're able to set an if-then decision process for them, if a particular scenario condition happens, do this. If otherwise, do something else. If you're able to set that structure, then you can use RPA for that particular process. Okay, this is the interface of an RPA tool called UiPath Studio. So this, I just put this in here so that you can get an idea about how simple it is to work with. So here you can see like all the resources that you have in the sense like if you do you require to get your data from an Excel file, use an Outlook account, use a Word file, or you want to add a picture. So these are all actions and resources. All you have to do is take a necessary action with along with the resource that you work with, drop your activities here and keep building your bot. Once that whole process is complete, your bot is ready and you can just start working. So this is just to give an idea about how you work with an RPA tool. And next is, yes, what can it not do? This is particularly important. I mean, this is something everybody should know. It's not a walking, talking bot. It's not any physically existing machine. It, as I already said, it lives inside your system. And it certainly is not artificial intelligence or voice recognition. This is something a lot of people, I think about, like when they talk about RPA, they think, they tend to combine it with AI or machine learning or anything, but it's not. RPA is a completely different technology. The only possibility is that you can actually combine artificial intelligence and machine learning along with RPA, and then it creates a concept of hyper automation. So in hyper automation, what happens is that it's like you can automate a process that's already automated. In the sense, the bot can be given some sort of a limited amount of decision-making skills is provided to the bot, so that the bot will improvise and do the process by itself. So it's like a next level of things which hopefully the future is going to be having. But AI or machine learning and RPA, they're all different components. They're not the same. They can only be combined. So yes, that's that. And yes, this is an RPA life cycle. Yeah. So this is the life cycle in the sense whenever a process or whenever business or a client comes forward with a requirement or comes forward to say, okay, you know what, I want to implement RPA, but okay, what do I do? These are the steps that is involved in it. Okay. So the first is the discovery phase. The discovery phase is you have to correctly be able to identify which process that is it that requires automation, which correct process needs to be automated so that the maximum efficiency can be obtained. That's crucial. That's really important. If you have a set of tasks and if you automate the least, easiest or the least important task, it does not create much of an outcome. So that identification process is extremely important, and that's why in discovery phase, opportunity assessment comes. So that is performed with the help of various tools, discovery workshops, etc. And after that, you come up with a high-level implementation plan. High-level implementation plan will be just a basic idea about like the first level file or first level documentation where you will be describing, okay, so this is the process, this is the outcome, this is what's happening right now, this is the outcome that you are expecting. After that, we come to solution design. So in solution design, excuse me, we have three main documents that come up. One is proceeds design document, next is solution design document, and the third is technical design document. A proceeds design document is a document where the current process that's actually happening, the manual process that's happening, that is explained. So that is that is done so that the correct opportunity is assessed. So that is the first basic document that you create, called the proceeds design document. And after that, you'll be creating a solution design document, wherein you'll be talking about, okay, so this is the problem, or this is the opportunity that we find that we can automate. Now we look at how we can automate it, or what is the solution that we can offer. Third is a technical design document. That'll obviously be the architecture of how, or after you deciding why, what, how do we actually implement this? What kind of an architecture do we follow? What all processes are there? What all subtasks are there? All these kind of information, or the final drill down, totally low level document will be a technical design document. Afterwards, we go into implementation. Implementation is obviously building and testing, UAT, go live. I'll explain each. Building and testing is the process of actually building the bot. So the people involved, the RPA developers will be, okay, they would have got all the information from the technical design document. They'll be choosing which all tasks to take, use any RPA vendor or the required RPA tool, and create the software bot. Then they'll obviously be testing to ensure that whatever the client or the customer had a requirement has been followed or has been solved. Then you go for user acceptance testing, or UAT. That's like the final test that you give just before you give your software to the client. So that's crucial, that's important. That's where all exceptions, or inconsistencies, all levels of it, all possible conditions of it are tested. And after that, we go live. That means we go forward with the implementation. And last part is support and run. Support and run is it's like the complement part, or the supplement part, the part that comes after the whole thing is done, where you are tracking the benefit. That is, you are figuring out if the bot that we built is actually making progress, or is actually getting us the output that we require. And afterwards, we have daily transaction execution reports and incident or change management. That is, if there's as the user is using, if he or she faces some kind of difficulty, or feels that some particular task or some particular step in it can be optimized, he or she can go ahead and raise a change management report for the same. So these steps in a detailed or in a drill down version is what I've given here. How do we implement? Or the basic steps, like you have to first identify the business opportunity. You have to go ahead and optimize it. Like how I said, you have to drill down and find out that one correct, or that particular task that really needs to be automated. And after that, we come down to building the business case. That is the entire documentation part that I told you about. And after that, yes, you select your RPA vendor. There are different RPA vendors or tools that are available. You choose whichever RPA vendor works for you based on their cost, or their implementation, or their interface, or based on the developer skills. So you choose an optimum RPA vendor, and then you start your development process. And afterwards, you go for your expansion, or RPA scope expansion, in the sense if there are other processes that can be complemented or added along with this, if some changes can be made, if some exceptions can be handled better. All this kind of information will come in the expansion section. Next is, where do we implement it? So I talked about how we're going to do it, the life cycle and everything. And next is, where exactly do we see it happening? So there are a certain use cases that I have considered. One is healthcare. Okay, in healthcare, what happens is, just give me a second. Yeah. Okay. So I figured out, or I've come across or read about few processes or key processes that can actually be automated. First one is invoice processing. Invoice processing, like how you said, there'll be multiple types of forms, multiple types of invoices that come up. So if there's a possibility, a human does not actually have to sit and figure out which form will go where, because it has predefined parameters already. So bot can do that. So that's invoice processing. Next is sales order. That is inputting data to your customer relationship management system, which is obviously going to be existing in every company, whether small, medium, or large. There will be a CRM, and there are obviously going to be people who are engaged in business processes who have to input all the necessary information repeatedly all the time. So that is also a process that can be automated. Then next is account reconciliation. That is verification of records. Like in various cases, or in what do you say, in various instances, different types of documents pertaining to originality or authenticity will come up. These documents have to be verified with one another. Again, there again, when you look, there is not much of it, it's completely rule based. And if the process is repetitive, okay, perfect, RPA is going to be working completely well for it. Next is ERP data entry. That is like how I said, in sales order or entering it into CRM, your ERP tools like enterprise resource planning tools, you have to enter data into it. So data entry is again can be automated. The next is systems queries. Systems queries means if you want to access some kind of a data, excuse me, some kind of a data from some kind of information from different systems. Instead of you going and searching for that particular data, your bot can actually do that for you. So that is again a process that can be automated. Next is payroll management. Payroll management, obviously, the job that the HR does, making sure that people are, whoever is, all the employees have their leaves calculated, have their bonuses calculated. These are all just simply based on calculation. There's no need of any kind of a judgment there. So again, that can also be automated. And another process in the HR is employee onboarding. When you onboard an employee, obviously, it's the same pattern everywhere for any employee. You'll have to provide, create profiles, look into, create email accounts, create, allocate particular resources. So these kind of processes, again, you can go for employee onboarding. And afterwards, another thing that can be automated is just the opposite of it, that is user termination or employee termination. Once the employee leaves the company, you don't need to have any access to any information about them or any process, any profiles created for them. So that can also be something that the bot can automatically ensure for you. And based on that, these are the sectors and certain processes that can be automated, and it includes in healthcare, you can go for patient registration, billing. These kind of processes obviously come in healthcare that can be automated. In HR, like how I already mentioned, employee onboarding, user termination. In the insurance sector, you can go for claims processing, claims management. You obviously know there'll be a lot of forms involved in it that you have to sit and fill, even if it's digital. So if you just get a bot to do it for you, it would be so much simpler. So claims processing can be automated with the help of insurance. Then you can go for manufacturing and retail, any kind of several of the applications that I already mentioned with respect to sales and marketing, or billing and calculations, and everything can be automated in manufacturing and retail. In telecom, service queries, customer experience, improving, and like anything in the HR, all of these processes will be, those are all processes that are spread across any industry, right? So in such a case, yes, telecom, yeah. Travel and logistics, something that I can think of is filling up your information when you book for tickets. If not, an already existing form of it is your auto form capability that's found in browsers. So that's also a type of an automation. That is, once you've already given the information, Chrome or your browser will actually be like, okay, so shall I just use the same information here? So yes, that's also a type of automation right there. Other sectors include banking, government, infrastructure. I think you've got an idea, in the sense it's all of these sectors will have the same implementations, or will have the same applications as I've already mentioned. Next, we talk about tools. These tools are what we use in order to build your RPA bot. And in today's market, there are a lot of tools available. It's a growing market. It's an extremely growing market. And the top three are UiPath, Blue Prism, and Automation Anywhere. UiPath's UI, the community version of it, is what I showed you guys earlier. Then there's Blue Prism and Automation Anywhere. So the tool that you use will obviously depend upon the type of processes that you are automating from your end, and of course the developer who's automating it, whether he or she is comfortable with that tool, how well versed they are. So depending on those factors and other parameters, you get to choose the tool that you work with. Next, I want to talk about RPA developers in the sense like, okay, so so you have an interest towards this field and you want to know how or what all are the opportunities available, like that matches with your skill set. So generally for an RPA developer, these four things are particularly important. One is you need to have familiarity with your technological environment. You don't exactly need to know coding, but it would be okay to know coding. A little bit of .NET or maybe Python, but actually all those programming languages of coding will become relevant when you're trying to do extremely complicated or complex processes, or even when you're trying to build a bot by yourself, in the sense a tool that builds a bot by yourself. Other than that, if you can just get some hands-on experience with respect to tools, with respect to the vendors I already said. I mean, all of the vendors, UiPath or Automation Anywhere, they provide exclusive courses, and even other resources are available. I'll talk about it in the coming slides. So just having some kind of getting acquainted with that will actually be enough for you to start your RPA journey. But since it is a technological job, it is good to have some kind of a knowledge about your technological environment, which you can actually pick up pretty quick. So that's one requirement. Next is knowledge of business process. Like I said, RPA is not just about technology. You're automating or you're putting technology into a human process or into a business process. So it is necessary or it's important that you understand business processes, how they work, what is the flow, how does the user do it. It's important to know that. So that knowledge of business process is required, because another factor is that only if you can completely or correctly identify the process that needs to be automated, or if you can correctly map out the opportunity, only then can you say that your RPA implementation has been successful. Otherwise, it does not create much of an effect. And third is RPA platform experience. Like I said, with respect to the vendors, you can go ahead and most of these vendors that I'm talking about have an idea, or like already have their resources spread out in free, available to all. So you can just learn, you can just figure out which works best for you and create an experience in that. And last is a little bit of data analytics, because most of the times you will be working with huge volumes of data, and initially most of this data would be unstructured, and by the end of the process implementation you should get a structured form. So in such a scenario, it's important that you know how to handle data, how to analyze it, all the process involved. So a little bit of data analytics will do you good if you are interested to get into this. Next is there are actually three kinds of three types of RPA developers, or not really three types, three levels actually. So I'm just going to explain all the three pretty quickly. First is a process designer. A process designer is actually the first person who gets who's the first in line, in the sense the correct process that you need to automate. The process designer gets it at first. So the process designer will actually understand the exact process that's happening now and how to automate it. All those kind of initial or high level architecture is performed by the RPA developer, by the process designer. And they are also supposed to be in charge of making sure that everybody in the team is in sync. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do. They're like the overall managers of this process. That is a process designer. Then we have the automation architect, who is the main person in charge. This automation architect is the person who will actually look into the actual implementation of the board creation. So based on the inputs from the process designer, he or she will automate and create the board ready for work. So, and these the people who are interested in automation architect or the actual RPA developers need not be, like I already said, well versed in programming. They can just learn a little bit of technical environment knowledge and start working. And the last is the production manager. Production manager is the person who I would say is the one who takes all the brunt. In the sense, after your bot has been created, does it actually work? How well does it work with exceptions? how does it handle inconsistencies? How do you ensure that whatever that has been automated is actually useful? Is the system going to crash? All those kinds of back-end processing and everything is done by the production manager. These are the three types of people in RPA: developer, process designer, automation architect, and production manager. Okay, and this is the main question of the hour, or something that a lot of people have a misconception about that I wanted to address. Will robots replace humans in the workforce? In the sense, I'm not sure about the ones that come up in TV or movies. In the sense, with respect to RPA, no, because it's pretty simple. They bots don't have a mind to think on their own. They're just doing a set of actions that you are telling them to do. They cannot ever displace your job. They can only complement your job. And if you are already doing a job that is mundane and repetitive, I think it would only be nicer that you get an opportunity to shift to something that's more innovative or creative. So it does not, it's just like saying, when ATM machines started coming up, people are worried that the job of a teller would be gone. But I don't see that happening anywhere. Banks still have tellers. Tellers still have a volume of people coming to them. So it's just people who prefer to use an ATM will go for that. People who still want to go to the bank and talk to the teller and do it, they'll do that. So it's all about a matter of perspective. And so my conclusion is very simple. RPA is not any form of replacement to human job. It does not. It can only work with jobs that are rule-based, repetitive, and yeah, that's it. And the future, yeah. Analytical thinking and innovation, active learning, creativity, originality, initiative. These are all the skill sets that the future is going to look forward to. And that is the main reason why RPA is not, or robots are not going to take over the world, because these are all skills that humans are extremely good at, or something that only humans are good at the moment. So you cannot expect RPA to learn all of this and take us over. And yeah, so that's about that. Then these are a set of resources that you can access. And yeah, first is, this is a very simple, Automation Anywhere has a simple video on how to build your first bot in the Automation Anywhere Community Edition. So you just have to download the Community Edition and work. You can just get a bot ready in like 5 minutes. So that's something very fascinating for me, and so I put the link to that. And then there's a course called RPA Full Course in 10 Hours. You can study the entire process of creating an quite an intermediary level of a bot using UiPath as your tool using this course. And this is someone who I personally know. She creates RPA tutorials based on UiPath, and you can check out her website as well as a YouTube channel for more information. And I would like to talk a little bit about an initiative that I'm part of, and something that actually inspired me to get in touch with Enner and everyone here. And it's called Women of Work. We're just starting off. We're just a group of people who are trying to create and get more women out into the field of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and medicine. So more information about that will actually be available in my LinkedIn page or in my Instagram page, which I am tagging right now. So this is my personal email ID. If anybody has any queries or needs any kind of information related to this, please feel free to ping me. And also, since most of you people would be active in Instagram, you can also check out my page at Megha.anil. So yes, that's it.
Thank you so much, Megha. I know you need to run, so please, if you have any questions, oh, we have actually questions. I will forward you the questions and we will come up with the answers and have a nice post. But thank you so much. It was really interesting. And now I know that robots will not take away my job.
I'm glad I was able to get that across.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us. If you have questions, just leave them here, or you can also send us to Megha or to our page, and we'll make all the answers together and compile the great post.
Yes, looking forward to that. Thank you so much for having me, Ainur, and I'm so sorry. Like, yes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a nice evening, everyone.
Yes, bye. Have a lovely evening. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, Megha.